Welcome to 21st Sports 2015 season preview for the Chicago Bears. We're going to go over the roster and the regular season schedule and every single game in the regular season and make predictions. But let's start off with the roster. And under center, Jay Cutler. Last year, Jay Cutler, he was asked to do too much in my opinion. He had to throw the ball 561 times. And they only handed off to their number one running back, Matt Forte, 266 times. So he was asked to pass the ball more than twice as much as they ran the ball. So they're running the ball, they only ran the ball like 30% of the time. They were passing nearly 70% of the time. It's about 66, I think, 0.6 or 7% of the time that they actually were passing the ball. So he was asked to do quite a bit. And when you just pass, that's where you get into some troubles with turnovers. He still had more touchdowns than turnovers, though, 28 touchdowns, but 18 interceptions, rather. It's a little bit too much. Of course, I think they're going to have a little bit more balanced offense this year. Part of the problem was Trestman, and Trestman is gone. So Cutler, he had 3,812 passing yards last year, but I think he can actually have higher numbers by passing the ball less. He did have a 66, completion percentage, so he completed the ball quite a bit. 66% of the time is a pretty good number, especially when you're passing 66% of the time, but it'll lead to picks when you just pass. But and why do that when you have Matt Forte? Of course, Matt Forte is back. He had over 1,000 yards rushing last year, 1,038 yards rushing. He also had 6 touchdowns, as well as 808 receiving yards and 4 receiving touchdowns off of 102 receptions. He led the Bears in receptions. I think he was like 4th on the reception list overall. So, he would have swore that Forte was a receiver, how many times he caught the ball out of the backfield. But he is that kind of threat. And when you actually have a more balanced attack, then, the Bears could actually have success. I don't have them doing that well this year. They're in one of the toughest divisions, but I actually thought, before going over the schedule that they would actually, be at least 500. But we'll get into that in a moment. Let's look at, like I said, you got Forte as the running back. You got Zach Miller at fullback. Then your receivers, Alshon Jeffrey and Eddie Royal. Of course, Jeffrey, he's a little banged up heading into the season, but he should be ready to go after a couple weeks. And once he gets back, with Eddie Royal on the other side, he gives Cutler the targets. And, of course, you got tight end Martellus Bennett as well. So Cutler has plenty of targets. And, with last year, Jeffrey had 1,133 receiving yards and 10 touchdowns. So if he produces numbers like that, and Eddie Royal and Jay Cutler back when they were in Denver, they actually hooked up pretty good and they had a rapport. And if they can pick up where they left off there, the Bears could have some success this year. So they do have the potential on the offensive side of the ball, but they got to protect the ball, and Cutler's got to reduce the turnovers. And I would believe that he will have less turnovers this year, especially with Trestman not being there. And if they have a more balanced attack, then he should lower that interception number. They also got Jacquizz Rodgers as well, who was with the Falcons previously. But let's look at the defense. And over on the defensive side, they actually made some additions on each level of the defense, as they got Jarvis Jenkins on the first level. There's a new player, Parnell McPhee, has also come in on the second level at outside linebacker. And then at safety, you got Antrell Roll. So on each level, they did make some improvements by adding some players. But let's go over the defense as a whole. He said up front, the defensive end, you got Jarvis Jenkins and you got Ego Ferguson. And then in the middle, at defensive tackle, Jeremy Ratliff. They also drafted Eddie Goldman, and he should be a pretty good addition to their defense, as they should be solid up front and be able to stuff some runs. They're in a very tough division. Of course, they got to face Eddie Lacy twice and Adrian Peterson twice as well. And the Lions have improved their backfield with Amir Abdullah. But at linebacker, you got Jared Allen. He's more playing like that elephant, like hybrid position. He more, traditionally plays like defensive end, but they have him, like I said, as an offensive or outside linebacker rather. But then on the other outside linebacker position, you got Parnell McPhee, and then on the inside, Shea McLennan and Christian Jones. So I mean, their linebacking core is not what it's been in the past. They don't have a Brian Urlacher, they don't have a Mike Singletary in this group, but they're young, they're growing, they're making strides to get better. We'll see how they do in 2015. In the corner, you got Alan Ball and Kyle Fuller. Fuller, I thought he had a pretty good year coming in last year as a rookie. We'll see how he grows this year, as he's going to be, asked to do a little bit more. And I thought it was actually a good addition over at safety that they brought in Antrel Roll. And, of course, they got Adrian Amos as well. So that's the defense for the Chicago Bears. Like I said, not quite the monsters of the Midway that we're used to seeing there in Chicago. Although, up front, they are pretty solid, actually. It's just they start to get in trouble once it comes down to the next level and into their secondary. But they might be able to shore that up, We'll see. And special teams, you have Robbie Gould at kicker, Pat O'Donnell, the punter, and then returning kicks and punts, you got Mark Mariani and Jacques Rogers as well, and Eddie Royal can help out with that too. So the special teams, it's not what it's been in the past, but I think they have some potential there with Rogers and Royal. See what they can do. But let's look at the season schedule for the Bears. We're going to go over every single game and make predictions. I said before I had gone over the schedule, I thought the Bears would be maybe 8-8, but then once I actually broke it down, I found myself with a 4-12 record for Chicago. So it starts off really tough for the Bears, and that starts off in Week 1. They do have this game at home, September 13th, 1 o'clock, but it's against the Packers. And although the Packers lost Jordy Nelson, they're a tough team, and I think the Packers win this one. Then Week 2, September 20th, 1 o'clock kickoff. Again, another home game. This one against the Cardinals. The Cardinals are a really tough team, and I believe that the Cardinals come in and they beat them. I think that, the Bears are going to have trouble stopping Carson Palmer, and I think that, the Cardinals defense should be able to hold the Bears offense, down enough to where they'll outscore them and win the game. So Week 3, September 27th, they're going to have their first road game of the season in Seattle against the Seahawks. It's a 4:25 kickoff. All these times are Eastern, although I know most Bear fans, if you're in Chicago, you're in the Central Time Zone. These are Eastern times. But they got to go to Seattle, their second straight week in a row where they're facing an NFC West opponent. And I think that the Seahawks win this one. The Seahawks, they're the defending NFC champions 2 years in a row. They are the class of the NFC, and they just got too much defense and offense for the Bears, especially in Seattle with the 12th man. So Week 4, October 4th, 1 o'clock kickoff, back in Chicago against the Raiders. Potentially they could win this game. It'll be an interesting game to see. But I like the Raiders this year, and I think that they can win this one. A lot of it has to do, with the holes on defense, and we'll see, how the offense is going to, produce this year. Are they going to be productive? They got to be healthy, and they got to be more balanced and protect the ball, but I got the Raiders winning this one. And part of this is, after going against the Packers, the Cardinals, and traveling on the road to the Seahawks, the Bears going to be kind of banged up. So Week 5, October 11th, 1 o'clock kickoff in Kansas City against the Chiefs in Arrowhead. And the Chiefs in Arrowhead are one of the toughest teams to beat. They have a really solid team, really solid defense, and a really strong run game they've added to their passing game, so I think they win this one. Then they go to Detroit in Week 6, October 18th, 1 o'clock kickoff against the Lions. It's a division rivalry game, their second one of the season, their first division rivalry game on the road. And I believe the Lions beat them. The Lions are really tough. They got a really good D. So that will lead us to the bye week in Week 7, and at this point they're going to be 0-6, maybe 1-5 if they can beat the Raiders there at home. But heading into Week 8, this is when I have them having their first win, the the first win of the season, November 1st, 1 o'clock kickoff at home against Minnesota. I believe they could beat the Vikings. They play the Vikings pretty good. I mean, they're a division rival, and this one's in Chicago, so I think they get their first win. Maybe it's their second win. You never know. So then week 9th, November 9th, their first primetime game of the season, Monday Night Football. They're going to be going to San Diego to face the Chargers and Phillip Rivers, and I think the Chargers are going to win this game. It's in San Diego. I said the Chargers, now that they got Melvin Gordon rather, they're going to be a lot better on the ground, and Phillip Rivers can spread the rock around, so I think that the San Diego Chargers win that game. So then week 10, November 15th, 1 o'clock kickoff in St. Louis against the Rams. It's another, tough road game. It's a tough beginning, the schedule, and it carries over into, this stretch here as well. And in St. Louis, I think the Rams win. They got a really tough defense. Of course, they got some questions on their offense. But I think, it's going to be tough for the Bears to travel and win games on the road this year. Then week 11, November 22nd, this game right here is a 1 o'clock Sunday game in Chicago against the Broncos. So they're going against the Broncos, and I actually think this game, they could win this one at home. I think that, Peyton, the time's finally catching up to him, and he's not going to be what he once was, and I think they could beat the Broncos in this game in Soldier Field. So then on November 26th, week 12, we got a Sunday, it's a Sunday Night Football on Thanksgiving, so a Sunday Night Football on Thursday. It's a primetime game, 8:30, division rivalry game. Their second time around facing the Packers. This time it's in Lambeau Field, and I think they lose this one, and the Packers sweep the season series against the Bears. So in week 13, December 6th, 1 o'clock kickoff on Sunday, a home game against the Niners, and I believe that they can beat San Francisco in this game. I think they're better than the Niners. The Niners are going to have a tough season. They're going to be struggling all year, and the Bears should wipe the field with them. So then week 14, December 13th, another Sunday game, 1 o'clock kickoff. This one, their second straight home game against the Redskins this week. And so I think they should be able to beat the Redskins and actually have a little mini win streak right here where they win 2 games in a row. Of course, at this point, it's, going to be just very little to cheer for. It'll only be their 4th win of the season, maybe their 5th, but hey, you never know. They could go anyway. But week 15, December 20th, 1 o'clock kickoff. They're going to be in Minnesota facing the Vikings for the second time in this season. And I believe they will lose this game to Minnesota, so they split the season series against the Vikings. And then week 16, December 27th, 1 o'clock kickoff on a Sunday. They're going to be in Florida, Tampa Bay, against the Buccaneers. So I think that the Buccaneers end up winning this one. I think the Bucs are going to be a lot better than a lot of people give them credit for. And it's Lovey versus the old team. I think that Tampa wins. So week 17, January 3rd, the final game of the season. They're going to be hosting the Lions. The Lions are going to have a lot to play for still at this point, whereas the Bears really won't. Of course, they'll be playing a spoiler, trying to spoil the season, but I think that Detroit wins this game and the Bears end the season on a 3-game slide. So it's tough, the Bears with the new coach, even though John Fox is a really good coach and he's a defensive-minded coach, but they still need, to work on their defense. Of course, they got some young players. They did address some issues, so it's possible, John Fox might have them up to speed, and we'll see how quickly they can, fix that defense. But they do have the weapons on offense, and if they can protect the ball, the Bears actually, could be competitive this year. Actually, I think they're going to be better than they were last year, but 4-12 is not really an improvement. So I was kind of actually surprised once I went over it that that's how it all turned out. But a lot of it is that they have a really tough schedule, which is kind of odd, being that they came off a losing record last year. So that's part of it. But let me know what you think in the comment section below, whether you agree or disagree, what you think about their roster, what do you think about their schedule, and what do you think about our predictions, and where do you see the Bears going in 2015? Thank you very much for listening. It is greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and have a great weekend, and enjoy all the sports.